will this all work like this? But McFarlane, of course, you know him very well, the former National Security Advisor to President Ronald Reagan. Bud, good to see you.
Good to be here, Neil. How are you?
I'm fine. I wanted to get your take on how General Kelly is doing. And my premise that everyone has to recognize that he's the boss there. He's the chief of staff. You want to see the president get on the schedule, you go through him. And that includes Ivanka Trump. That includes Jared Kushner. Am I right?
You are spot on, Neil. Government's supposed to solve very, very complicated problems. And to do that, you have to bring together a dozen people who are experienced, have knowledge, but to do so in a disciplined manner. You want to evaluate several alternatives for almost every policy you undertake, whether it's deterring North Korean nuclear attack, deploying an effective healthcare system, immigration system, but it takes knowledge, experience, and discipline, discipline, discipline. General Kelly is very, very experienced in how to do that, to solve equivalent problems while he was in the military for almost 40 years.
Right.
And he'll do a terrific job in this chief of staff role.
Now, Bud, I want to make sure I get my years and timing right and who was who. When you were with Ronald Reagan, did you have to work through James Baker? Was he the chief of staff at the time?
He was, and he was a masterful chief of staff. He was sensitive to what is the limit to what a president can do. Probably two things in foreign affairs, maybe two or three in domestic affairs. Organize the political capital, how you deploy it, spend it, bring together knowledgeable people, but in a disciplined fashion.
But did he tell you, Bud, that you know, I know you're close to the president. Ronald Reagan really likes you, but you want to see him, you go through me first. You have to check with me first.
Well, I did. I didn't work quite as well with his successor, Don Reagan.
That's right. I remember when they swapped jobs, right?
In any event, you couldn't ask for a better chief of staff than Jim Baker, a Marine, by the way, like General Kelly.
Oh, that's right. Well, Don Reagan ticked off Nancy Reagan, so that was another problem there. But it does get me, Bud, back to family and the role they play. Ivanka Trump made an interesting remark about General Kelly, that she was looking forward to serving alongside him. What did you make of that?
Well, it's a sign of maturity on Ivanka's part. She has something to offer. Others do as well. She respects peer approval of any proposal to solve a problem.
Alongside him, I'm over-linguisting this, I guess, but that doesn't mean reporting to.
Well, we'll see. I think General Kelly wouldn't have taken the job if he didn't believe that he had authority to deploy a disciplined process, including anybody who has something constructive to say, and I expect that includes the family.
Every White House has internecine rivalries. These ones are particularly pronounced in the first 6 months. But as you reminded me, that things can calm down. 6 months from now, be very, very different. But a lot depends on the president, right? Is the president going to take his chief of staff's advice, to be focused, to be more disciplined? Or does that mean that Donald Trump can't be Donald Trump?
Well, a president does have to acknowledge what he doesn't know. President Reagan had a real strength. It's unusual in politicians. However, in addition, you have to realize that it's a matter of self-interest. If you want to get something done, you have to rely upon people to give you a way forward on every issue, because unless you do, you'll have the appearance of chaos, and re-election is not going to be happy experience if you do that.
What are your thoughts on having someone like the general in there, who at this time dealing with North Korea and his background, very successful, short as it was, stewardship of Homeland Security, being your right-hand guy in that office as chief of staff?
Well, it certainly gives a sense of confidence. You have in General Kelly 40 years of experience in not only knowing how to get things done, but the ability to inspire confidence. Inspire confidence in a president, but in the American people too, that somebody comes to the job with knowledge, experience, and understands how to solve the problem. Joe Kelly's perfect in this role.
But finally, we always talk about how the metrics for which we judge an administration success, largely it's on legislative wins and victories. Obviously, executive orders, market performance in this case for this president, all noteworthy. But no legislative victories yet. If he finishes the year without a successful health care rework or tax cuts are pushed back, would you be worrying?
Well, you noted earlier that in the first year of President Reagan, there were difficulties. The National Security Advisor resigned.
Right.
And so he started a new agenda, or with a clean slate, in his second year. But by the end of that first term, growth was happening, and he launched the longest sustained period of economic growth in our country's history, 20 years and more. So yes, this can be overcome. The president can, relying on a strong chief of staff, solve problems, be they deterring North Korea, dealing with immigration issues, health care. I'm confident things are going to get better.
Bud McFarlane, very wise words. Always good chatting with you, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.